Australian Aviation Podcast, the official podcast of Australian Aviation, unpacking the latest insights, developments and issues impacting Australia's aviation sector.
Hello everybody, my name is Adam Thorn and welcome to the Australian Aviation Podcast. I start with a sombre yet seismic announcement. This will likely be, almost certain to be, my last episode as the host of this show.
What?
That's Jake Nelson, one of my co-hosts. I had a whole script plan and you've just completely ruined it. Let me go back into it. Right, where was I? This will likely be, I'm looking down the barrel of a camera. This will likely be my last episode as the host because I am leaving as the editor of Australian Aviation. People ask me why, and I say the crown wears heavy on the bearer, having to put up with the idiot listeners, the stupid viewers, and my numbskull co-host. I mean, that'll do it in for anyone. Man has had enough. I can't take it anymore, so I'm off. In all seriousness, I will be continuing to do the Australian Aviation print magazine. They've yet to work out what my job title is going to be. They're thinking contributing editor, but I like the idea of editor at large just because that's the most absurd job title in journalism. Obviously,
They will never catch you.
They will never catch me. On that bombshell, as Jeremy Clarkson would say, I will first go to one of my co-hosts, Jake Nelson. Jake, obviously, how do you feel about this news? How's this going with you?
Oh, can I say it now?
Say whatever.
What?
Not the response I was expecting. How do you feel? Now, just to be serious, how do you feel about this?
Look, Adam. It's a sad day. It's a sad day for Australian aviation.
Yeah.
And it's speaking genuinely for a moment, I would not have the career I have if you had not taken a chance on me initially and continued to take a chance on me every time I walked into the office. So I appreciate everything that you've done, and you will be missed.
That's the nicest thing he's ever said to me. That is amazing. That is lovely. That's lovely. And you seem to actually mean that as well.
I can mean things occasionally.
That is really lovely. No, thank you for that. I will also introduce my other, sometimes co-host, Ben Foster. Now, as you may know, Ben actually has a chronic fear of flying. He actually does. Shows nonsense. But he actually went to Peru, this is true, and his plane landed this morning. Ben, tell us a bit more about this.
I shall, but firstly, on the bombshell news that you've shared, just give my 2 cents worth, and this is why I want to come on today. One of the very nostalgic times I do, but Adam, you will be sorely missed, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work that I've done with you on Australian Aviation as your media strategist to all the clients that we work with as well, whether that be on the features or the interviews or the podcasts that you do. So very well. You will be missed, mate.
Thank you.
And it's been an absolute pleasure working with you. So, yes, I've just flown from Santiago, Lima, Santiago, Sydney.
You said Santiago with an accent there.
Of course I did. Santiago. Mi nombre.
It sounds more of an Italian accent than anything.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. But yeah, landed this morning in Sydney at 6:55 a.m. local time after a 13 or 14-hour flight with LATAM. So,
what aircraft were you on?
The one with 2 wings.
Well, Adam, it would have been probably a 7879.
There you go.
There we go. I can't tell you the aircraft. I can tell you the headsets, though.
You brought the headset
I
with
did
you.
bring the headset.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a lover of the headsets, but wanted to, of course, also honour this event and my trip with some gifts.
Oh, thank you.
So,
we love gifts. We love gifts
here.
First and foremostly, I don't know if we're allowed alcohol on here, but this is a Pisco Sour. Pisco. From the deepest, darkest parts of the Chilean duty-free. So I got that for you, my friend. You can put that in if you'd like.
I'll have to have it later.
Jake, mate, I know you did want a key ring from, or some memento of Hard Rock Cafe overseas. I didn't find that. So I went to the deepest, darkest parts of the Chilean duty-free shop as well and got you a little key ring, which has
that's really nice.
a condor,
Yeah.
a llama, and what's the third one there?
It looks like a penguin.
Penguin, yeah. So Chile, although I spent the vast majority of time in Chile, in Peru, which has the condor, so that's still going there. The puma and the serpent, which is all part of the Inca traditions as well. So
There you go. I'll show the camera here. It's if you can see it, it's they're all hanging on for dear life because they're presumably, I don't know, fallen off a cliff or something.
yeah, I got the 3 one because I thought, the 3 of us. So there we go. There we go. And it was on special. And I just got you some chocolate too, mate. So
Wonderful. How'd you get that through customs?
You don't want to know, but it's. I'll let you find out.
Thank you.
But yeah, just wanted to bring that back. And
Alcohol and chocolate's all already. You know me. You know me very well.
but Latin, are we allowed to speak about Latin?
Yeah,
of
you
course.
absolutely can.
Great airline, really, really good. The most entertainment I've seen of in terms of digital entertainment.
Yeah.
Really good, pretty good in-flight experience. It was a pretty brutal 14-hour flight just to go from Sydney to Santiago and then Santiago up to Lima with the Andes on the right. So that was quite amazing to see.
What movies did you watch? You talk about entertainment. Can you remember?
I can. I got into watched a bit of Blood Diamond this morning.
That's a really good film.
It's very
actually.
DiCaprio's Rhodesian accent is quite impressive, don't you know, bruh? I also got into the Paramount show The Offer, which is based on the making of the Godfather film.
Oh,
back in the in the 70s. That was really, really cool. So I took that on board. What else did I do? Played a lot of puzzle block or something like that, just to take my mind off the turbulence as we got in. I had 6 flights in total, so all LATAM.
And you survived.
I thought there was a few moments there where I was like, it's worse if you go down Argentina. Like it's really quite bumpy there. But coming in from Lima to Cusco is where you go. So you go down to Cusco and you'll go off there to Machu Picchu, as I did. They have a particular way of flying down, like a bit more of a zigzag approach, supposedly. At least that's what they told me.
Yeah.
To keep the turbulence to a bit of a minimum. But amazing country. LATAM, really, really. A good airline, very good pilots too. I actually asked the pilot before we went to Cusco, like, sir, turbulence? He goes, no, do not worry, best pilots in the world.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
It was very good. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Have you been to South America?
Have not been to South America.
No, have you flown LATAM?
Have not flown LATAM.
All right. Have you?
No.
Adam? No.
I don't think I've ever been to South America.
No. It's great. Really, bit of a bucket list opportunity to go to see Machu Picchu, which is amazing. Really and high. The scariest part about Machu Picchu was the bus ride up. Just going zigzags. It's crazy. But anyway, maybe some of the listeners could write in and share their favourite LATAM experience.
Oh yeah, go for it. I won't be here. So you knock yourself out, boys. You knock yourself out.
Fair enough.
Right.
Also, Adam, I remember a couple of years ago when our former co-host Chris left the podcast. We presented him with something.
Yes.
Good man.
And so I've conspired, actually.
Oh my God.
Excellent.
I've conspired with Jack, who's one of our designers.
Oh.
Good
Because
boy.
you can't leave without getting a cover.
Yes.
Oh, that's really lovely.
Brilliant.
That's really
Well
lovely.
done, mate.
So I'll just
So
show
I'm
it
gonna
to
give
the
you- I
camera
don't care.
so they can see the glare here.
Give you a hug.
That's really sweet.
Oh, thank
Well
you.
done.
That's lovely.
And it's got all kinds of articles that are relevant to our readers and to you.
Planes
Best
of
of both.
Thrones,
Yeah.
yes, of course. He's no son of mine, Jim Stone. Picks out and Milk Thieves, which for anyone who works in the office will understand. Fair Wayland, yeah, you've nailed this. Australian Aviation's greatest editor since 2020. No, I like it. I like this.
And
It's pretty
we've got
good.
the strap up the top as well there.
Much better than Portsmouth is Southampton experts. But yeah, that is lovely. That is genuinely
Well done,
lovely.
Jake.
That
That's
is
really,
genuinely
really nice,
lovely.
And I innocuously brought up the subject of favourite colours last week in the office, Adam,
Yeah.
because I was trying to decide between several different colours that Jack
I
suggested.
see.
And when you
I
said
see.
blue, I said, that's the one.
That is
Nice
really
one.
kind. That's really lovely. Lovely. That's really thoughtful. I will now do a self-indulgent monologue to the camera for those of you on my YouTube. So I have been at
If you need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, now is the time. So I started Australian Aviation 5.5 years ago. And actually, I took another job. I was like a general journalist within Momentum Media, the company that owns Australian Aviation. And they kind of gave me this after 2 weeks. They're like, we've bought this aviation publication. Could you look after it? I was hopeless at it. I was absolutely useless because I knew nothing about airplanes at all. And then incredibly, in a stroke of luck, a global pandemic hit. And this is actually weirdly good for me because I didn't need to know too much about aircraft. I need to know about how to cover a news story. And so I managed to survive at Australian Aviation and eventually did start to learn a little bit about aircraft. And now 5.5 years have gone. This job, more than any job I've had in my life, has changed my life because I've got a new life in Australia now. I'm a permanent resident of Australia, which is my all-time dream. And I can't put into words what that means. I got to have all these crazy adventures to travel around the country, cover this huge news story in COVID, take on this legendary publication, one of the longest serving publications in Australian history. And honestly, it means the world. And obviously, I'm very grateful to my co-hosts here. I'm very grateful to Phil and Alex, who own the company. But also, it's true to say, I'm also very grateful to everyone that's listened and watched this show and read our articles, because you are the people who read and listened in such numbers that I stayed in a job. So I owe all of you, it's very, very true, I owe all of you everything. And it, honest to God, means the world. I don't think I'll ever love a publication or ever love any job I have as much as I've loved Australian Aviation. It has been absolutely amazing. One more thing I do have to bring up, and I thought about whether or not we should do this at all, is that before I had, well, not before, actually, at the same time almost, I had Ben and Jake on this show. My former co-host was, as Jake mentioned, Chris Fenton. And Chris Fenton was last on this show probably a couple of years or so ago now. And basically what happened, and I don't really know how to say this, about 6 months or so after he left Australian Aviation, he sadly died. And the reason we never spoke about this on the show is because we knew Chris very, very well. We didn't necessarily know his family. We didn't understand the personal sort of circumstances, so we didn't think it would be appropriate. But I think enough time now has passed that we can address it. Chris is a hugely important part of this show. He was incredibly important part of Australian Aviation. He kept this thing going for an awful long time. He was our sales guy. He was bringing in the money. My life in Australia, my time at Australian Aviation, a lot of that is due to him. I'm not a religious man or a spiritual man, but I would say if you are watching this, Chris, from wherever you may be, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I loved you very dearly. You meant the world to all of us here, and I can't say enough how important Chris was. So thank you to Chris, thank you to Ben, thank you to Jake, Phil, Alex, everybody that's worked at Australian Aviation. There are also so many people behind the scenes. There's far too many people to rattle off. Special mention to Lindsay, who oversees our production team, to Dennis, our wonderful audio producer, and to Will, our director, who's absolutely brilliant. He reads every single article, and a million other people that contribute this. You all changed my life, and from the bottom of my heart, I can't say it enough. It means the world to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Rant over.
Well done.
Oh,
Here.
Yeah, that was very nice. Well, we should probably do some corporate stuff and talk about an even bigger announcement, which is the Australian Aviation Summit and Awards, which are taking place on August the 14th. The summit, supported by our principal partner, Leidos, will be headlined by the maestro, Alan Joyce, given one of his first public appearances since he left the CEO of Quantis. I would say Chris's final dream was genuinely like, you've got to get Alan Joyce. That's why we pursued him. So we've got him. Come along and hear what he has to say. He's going to be talking all about his time at Qantas, guiding the airline through COVID, all of the lessons learned. It's going to be a must-watch thing. If you want to attend, go to australianaviation.com.au or tap it into Google, Australian Aviation Summit. It will come up with all the relevant links. In the evening, we're going to have the Australian Aviation Awards, which is a fancy pants black tie dinner. Obviously, if you've been a finalist, you should come along. But even if you haven't, come along, do a bit of networking. It'll be a good fun night, and that's going to be held at the Illumina venue. And we do this joke every week at the Martin Place metro station, not in the metro station, in one of the levels above. But if you can come along, do come along. It'd be lovely to see everybody there.
Tickets are sold out.
Are they?
For the summit.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, for the awards.
For the awards.
Absolutely
so
sold out.
If you want to come along to the awards, don't. Got no chance.
Come to the summit, though. Do come to the summit.
Can you come? Yeah, just do come.
Are you going to be there, Adam? Or are
Well,
you
I don't know.
Already...
So basically, the plan, the tentative
We'll
plan.
have to charge you now, though, Full
That would be
fee.
really bad, wouldn't it? I reckon Phil would do it, though. No, so the tentative plan is I'm going to go back to the UK for a few weeks, and I want to tag on a bit more travel to that. So
Sure.
I'm thinking maybe do the Perth to London flight so I can have a look around WA. Everyone in WA says WA is the greatest place in the world. Maybe just do a little bit of travelling around. So that I've not booked anything yet, but the plan is to do like 4 or 5 weeks, have a bit of fun. So if I am around, I will definitely. I'll just turn up.
Maybe we link you in via Zoom or something like that. Virtual presentation.
No,
perhaps?
no. They have to charge for that. But if I can come along, I absolutely will. But yeah, if you want to come along to the awards, to the summit, come along. But it's still good to talk about the awards. Anyway.
Absolutely, no. It's just grown so much.
We love awards.
Awards.
I think a couple of us participated in the judging this year. So if you have been nominated for one of the Australian Aviation Awards and you win that award, just thank us.
Right, now before we do try to be sensible and talk about the news, I have one final bombshell to reveal. Now, we've been doing this show on YouTube for, it's been like a couple of years now.
Something like that, yeah.
7 years. And for the last 18 months, Jake has had this weird in-joke where he takes this remove before flight tag and he puts it randomly somewhere in the studio. It's a kind of a...
Where's Wally?
No, it is, yeah. It's like, where's Wally? What do they call it on DVDs when you have like a little...
An Easter egg.
An Easter egg. So it's like an Easter egg for the hardcore listeners. He's been doing this for 18 months. I told him nobody would work it out. I don't care now. You've had 18 months. Nobody worked it out. He has for future employers. The reason why the tag is on my microphone is that is where it is today. So yeah, he's really angry. He looks so furious. Look of absolute fury.
I'm not angry, Adam. I'm disappointed that none of our eagle-eyed listeners have picked this up.
No, but I do think we need new jokes when we have a brave new regime. I don't know who's going to be host of this. I've no idea who's going to take this nonsense circus on. Like Ronald McDonald character.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, to be fair, we might well do.
I don't think ChatGPT would have your incisive wit, Adam.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. But yeah, no. Anyway, that's the final bombshell revelation there.
So what was the joke?
Oh, but that's what I mean. It was a rubbish joke. So the joke is basically that he just puts the tag somewhere in the studio and hopes that somebody works out that it's always in shot somewhere every episode. Nobody has. We've actually got good like 1,000 people, 2,000 people watch this nonsense every week. But no, none of them are.
We've put it on the Connie over here. We've had it on the Constellation.
Right.
We've had it on the Super Connie over here. We've put it in front of the Huey. We've put it on various planes. We've strapped it to soot once or twice. I think Hannah had it on her person when she was guest hosting, but nobody has spotted the moving remove before flight tag, which makes me sad.
It makes you sad, but there we go.
Is it worthwhile just doing a quick, before we get into the news, just a bit of a reflection on some of your favourite interviews or stories or top breaking moments with Australian Aviation? Do we have time?
Let's do some more self-indulgent Adam chat. I love that.
If you need to go to the bathroom again.
Exactly.
No, I think the favourite thing was my favourite story, and it did something absurd, like 100,000 views or something ridiculous. And this was basically, there was an old Qantas 747 that was put in like a boneyard in the Mojave Desert
during
or something.
COVID.
No, it was before COVID, and basically in these boneyards, they let people look around some of the boneyard, but not all of it, because airlines don't necessarily want pictures of their clapped out old aircraft because it's a bad look for the brand and whatever. Anyway, some lunatic, some social media influencer, like clambered over the gates and like got into this aircraft, and it was like something out of like The Walking Dead, like apocalyptic. Anyway,
Mad Max.
This person went in there with like a camera, and it's like inside the rotting 747.
Oh wow!
And I saw this on social media, and I'm like, our readers will love this, and it got absolutely crazy views. That made me laugh. I loved covering Rex early doors. I loved John Sharp, my favourite guest, my favourite industry personality. John Sharp did not give a whatever. He would throw in grenades everywhere, very, very witty. He was great fodder for us early on. It was a mutually beneficial arrangement.
Yep.
I love covering that. I'm trying to think what else. I loved all the stuff we did on like drones and drone light shows. That was a favourite feature. I wrote. I love traveling the country, going all these summits and stuff, which is absolutely amazing. But yeah, I knew nothing about airplanes until I got this gig.
Yep.
Still don't. But but no, it's been incredible. And actually, looking at and talking to kind of like enthusiasts, like the real kind of plane spotters, and people always ask me, why are people so obsessed about taking pictures of planes? And the answer is very simple, because when they look up in the sky, they see a miracle. They see they see the epitome of human engineering, and it really is an extraordinary thing.
Yep.
And we all take it for granted, right? And when they look up, they see that incredible achievement. They see all the hopes and dreams of the people on the aircraft, so they kind of romanticize it.
Yeah.
So you all think that these people are sad. They would look at you and go, why aren't you in awe of this?
100%.
And it's kind of like the analogy is, if you see a hot air balloon, you look at it because it's unusual. They've got that magic when they look at planes every time. And it was weird actually seeing all the aircraft stop during COVID. And I do remember, and this is a nerdy thing for me to say, the first Qantas A380 flight post-COVID happens to fly over my apartment. And because it's a big 4-engine plane, and because we'd not heard an international aircraft at all in so long, I do remember, and I swear I'm not exaggerating, my apartment almost like shaking a little bit as it went over. I remember watching it and seeing it on flight radar. And genuinely, it was a privilege to be the editor of Australian Aviation during COVID, even though it was a dark time for the industry, because it's the biggest news story to ever hit the industry. And to be the person that helmed this legendary old publication during this extraordinary time was a privilege I didn't deserve. But watching the industry be so high, crash down and come back up again, as a journalist, as a journalism nerd, that was amazing. And if I was at any other publication, I wouldn't have been able to cover that story like that. So that was my favourite thing.
On the feat of engineering, like spending 13, 14 hours, or just 12 hours, 10 hour, an hour flight, regardless. Being 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 feet in the air, correct me if I'm wrong, listeners and followers, but in a cylinder in the sky, and then how it is truly an amazing engineering feat.
Yeah, and we all take it for granted how incredibly how this all changed the world.
Absolutely, and it definitely has. So glad you shared your top interviews.
Yeah, thank you very much. Right, let's go.
And Adam, just one thing to add to that. Epitome is how that's pronounced.
What?
Epitome.
What did I say?
You said epitome.
Epitome.
Yeah, epitome. It's from the Greek.
Oh, thanks for that.
No worries.
Okay, welcome back. So we talked there about the best of Thorn, the highlight of the episode.
Simply the best.
The epitomes of your time.
The epitome of time. Actually, before we leave the best of Thorn, this is all about me. I don't care. One of the tasks I gave you, Jake, in my last week as manager, is I asked you to call all the major airlines, all the big plane makers, and ask them if they could give a quote, really, to reflect on my time as editor of Australian Aviation. I actually told him to do this, because what I was hoping for is like, Vanessa Hudson, Qantas CEO, thank you so much for your service. You changed the industry. Or maybe...
Or was it more like Adam who?
No. And I was imagining, like, the Chief of Air Force, who was like, our fighter pilots feel safe knowing you're covering the news. Like, thank you for your service to Australia. I asked you to reach out to all of these places. What was the feedback? Have we got any quotes, like a kind of video montage of?
Well, I do have a quote from a very well-respected airline CEO, and I can't reveal who they are, but they did say these heartwarming words. As a large language model, I'm afraid that I can't.
I see what you've done there. Oh well, it was worth a try. Right, we should probably attempt to talk about the news. Jake, what are we talking about?
We've had a bit of feedback on what we were talking about last week on power banks on flights.
Riveting episode. You missed this one, Ben.
But there's been first of all, aside from the power banks, you mentioned SPI, the Smart Property Investor podcast, as something we were trying to beat. At the Pink Pony on YouTube says, first rule of free advertising is never mention the opposition.
Very good point. Very good point.
So we've had, some discussion around this. At On the Road with John says, if the power bank was on fire, then you cannot put the fire out. Water does nothing to put the fire out. You can only stop other things from catching fire. Of course, it could be that the hot power bank made something else catch fire, but I don't think the power bank was actually on fire, but lucky for all. So,
what's the name of that guy again?
At On the Road with John.
On the road with Job. Good luck with finding a girlfriend soon.
But we've also at Tragic Magic 77 asked.
Yeah, that's an accurate username. Go on. What's Tragic Magic said?
Why does it matter if you charge your power bank on a flight? I'm genuinely curious on why it's being banned. And at Lieutenant Nuggets, fantastic name.
Lieutenant Nugget.
Lieutenant Nuggets said, my assumption if the bank is faulty, can overcharge, then get hot and start a fire.
Well, he's a lieutenant. So.
Yeah, well, it's if the power bank is damaged or if it short circuits, then there is a fire risk. We also had a comment on YouTube. Sorry, on Facebook. Those were from YouTube. But John on Facebook says we asked a power bank's a risk. John says no, people are a risk. It's only older power banks that are a risk. They make them better these days. So
okay, good
some lively discussion on the subject of power banks on planes, whether or not they should be banned. But I thought I'd give everyone a bit of an update on that. Now, Adam, this is your last episode.
It is.
And so, in honor of your last episode, we're going to talk about a story that you wrote.
I don't like doing that. I've been doing less work than usual this week as we're winding down, so it's going to be interesting.
Apparently, Melbourne Airport's domestic passengers are still down on 2019, but it recorded its best ever international performance.
Yeah, so obviously,
for the same period.
Here behind the magic, they sent us a press release talking about how wonderful everything is. Obviously, I throw that away and delve deep into the numbers. So basically, Melbourne Airport, like a lot of airports in this country, are improving year on year, but domestically, they're still, I think it was 2 million passengers off the top of my head.
Wow.
Behind where they were in 2019. But internationally, they're up, I think it's 8%, something like that, year on year. So this is the really interesting bounce back we've had from COVID. You would assume that domestic would be doing better than international. But what's happened, and we talk about this frequently, we've had a reduction, we think, in business class travel due to a lot more meetings being done over Zoom. But we've also had more and more international routes opening up. A lot of this is due to kind of state government funding to encourage more carriers to come here. Melbourne's obviously on the brink of, a kind of a major expansion, so this is kind of good news for them. But nonetheless, 5.5 years on domestically, we're still a little bit behind where we were before. That's it, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the sort of the drop in business travel is an interesting one because there's a YouTuber that I sort of follow, Wendover Productions. He does a lot of videos about aviation and the economics thereof. And he's pointed out that a lot of the money, a hefty chunk of the money that airlines pull in comes from business travel. Comes from selling seats at the pointy end of the plane.
The left turn, if you will.
The left turn. And so with those dropping, that's a hit to revenue for the planes. It also sort of went into kind of some of the differences between business and leisure passengers, which I thought was interesting in that, for leisure passengers, and this goes into fleet planning and networking. For leisure passengers, the most pressing issue for them, or the biggest consideration when they're picking their itinerary is price. And I know if I'm flying down to Melbourne or whatever, or for a trip, I will look for the cheapest available price, the cheapest available flight that's not at 6 o'clock in the morning. Whereas for business travelers, timing is more important. You have to get to your meeting in Brisbane by 3 p.m., so you want a plane that will get you there on time. And once you are done with your meeting, if possible, you want to fly back out as soon as possible. You don't want to stay the night, and your company is footing the bill, so you don't much care about the price.
Yeah.
So that's sort of it's a Wendover Productions on YouTube. It's a one about how airlines pick their fleets, and it's a fascinating watch. So shout out there to Wendover Productions.
Excellent.
But yeah, so Melbourne Airport. Getting back to the original topic, it is very interesting. Laurie Argus said, since the pandemic, we're seeing people prioritizing travel and connections as essential parts of their family budgets, and today's financial year's numbers reflect that. We're also getting, they're also getting, I should say, because we're in Sydney, they're also getting Hong Kong Airlines 3 times a week from Melbourne to Hong Kong. And Hong Kong Airlines has been expanding a bit in Australia over the recent months. I think they've just started flying to Sydney as well.
And this comes because the Australian government effectively allowed greater flights, or they've opened up the agreement with Hong Kong. So this has allowed this kind of challenger brand to come in and take on Cathay and Qantas.
Yeah. So interesting times in Melbourne. I'd say but you'll be gone. So the rest of us are going to have to watch to see how the domestic travel continues to recover.
I'll be watching. Yeah.
Yeah, but we won't be paid to anymore.
No. And would I do it for free? I'm not sure if I would do.
Question on that from Melbourne's point of view. So Sydney, we're about to have Western Sydney open next year.
Yeah.
How far away is Melbourne from getting a second international?
I mean, Avalon's kind of already
There?
exists. It's just, nobody's flying there internationally. I think they got a few international services pre-COVID, maybe.
Sure.
But if they want a second international airport, or if they, want to build up a second airport, then they would probably be wanting to look at Avalon.
Yeah, sure.
And it's you if you're booking seats to Melbourne with Jetstar, you can have a look at like all prices to Melbourne, and that includes Tullamarine and Avalon.
And Avalon as well. Yep.
And Avalon, I think usually or often is cheaper because it's sort of further out and smaller and everything.
That's a long way.
Yeah, and so I think Avalon would probably really like to attract more traffic, and I think the former CEO, we were talking to him last year about things with Bonza and all that, and he basically said, we're open for business. Come on, we've got all the space you could want. Come and fill your boots.
Yeah. They're already there.
And Avalon, I think, is also trying to push for better public transport links because the Melbourne Airport rail link is still years and years away. Mm-hmm. And Avalon says, we could get, what was a Gatwick style transportation?
Luton, I think.
Luton, that's it. A Luton style transportation system, quicker and cheaper than Tullamarine can. So.
They're mad keen. They're mad keen for it. They're not got the
exactly. And it'd be good to get. And we've talked about airport monopolies quite a few times on this show, and how strange it is that Australian cities don't have secondary airports like a lot of other cities do. Tokyo, New York, London, all of those places. You planning on flying into Heathrow, Adam?
Yeah,
it probably will be Heathrow. It nearly always is. Yeah. So I think
not going to go to Luton.
No, God no. Luton's where you go if you go to Ibiza for a mad one.
Are you going to go to Ibiza for a mad one?
I'm actually tempted to do maybe like Ibiza on the way there or Ibiza on the way back. It'd actually be prime.
You could. Have you been to Bali, Adam? Because
I have been to Bali. I didn't like Bali, to be honest. It was a poor man's Ibiza. So, it is though. The beaches are horrible and there's stray dogs everywhere. So I've really dumbing it down in my last episode, haven't I? No, Ibiza's lovely. Ibiza's actually beautiful as well.
Supposedly, Noel Gallagher sold his house recently there. FYI, if you're an Oasis fan. And when he sold it, then the house prices on his street went up.
I bet they did.
That guy's gone. Fantastic.
So I usually fly into Heathrow. It's a long old flight, but I love flying. So.
You're not going to use the "You Know Who I Am" line for a bit of an upgrade?
I don't think
it's
it'll work
Australian
anymore.
Aviation.
Yeah, I don't think it'll. I think after Thursday's my last day, then I'm nothing.
Yes, hello Qantas. I'm Adam Thorn. I work for Australian Aviation. I was wondering if I could get a free upgrade. Okay, putting me down further the back of the plane.
Yeah,
cargo.
You're strapping me to the what?
Yeah. Right, what are we talking about next?
Suppose we can't avoid it. There's Ansett. You remember Ansett, Adam?
I remember. No, I don't. But I know of Ansett.
If you remember Ansett, it's back in AI form. There is a Melbourne-based tech entrepreneur who has acquired the trademark for Ansett Travel, and he is bringing it back as an AI-powered online travel agency because nothing is sacred. Konstantin Franceskos describes himself as a marketing and digital strategist to the world's boldest organizations, has partnered with Traveller, spelled without any E's, to launch his new Ansett travel platform, which he says will use AI to offer personalized recommendations and itineraries.
This, I would say, now I don't want to throw shade on this person. It might be very good, but it does seem a bit sad that Ansett, which is a legendary, iconic brand, that a lot of people have a lot of affinity to, that some kind of Joe Bloggs could go and take that name and then give it to AI. It does feels like it's a little bit like it's nothing sacred.
Cheeky, yeah.
It does feel that. To me, on the surface, that's poor form.
Yeah, well, he says, quote, and this is a quote in the Sydney Morning Herald. Oh, it's a shame it went away, but I think that that brand voice is still compelling and people have nostalgia for it. Just because the corporate entity behind something didn't work doesn't mean that the brand doesn't still mean something. When I mentioned what I'm doing to people, not what I'm doing to people, they get a big smile on their face. And he says, Ansett was... Yeah, that's surprising to me. Ansett was such a wonderful, innovative brand. It was a pioneer of great service. They were the first ones to bring business class to Australia, according to one of our commenters, by the way. No, that was TAA. And they were loved by their customers. I thought, wouldn't it be a cool thing to genuinely bring this brand back to life? And that's what I'm doing. I'm building the personal travel agent of the future. You're not bringing it back to life, Constantine. You're using it for a different thing.
I think Deborah Laurie, who famously
Took him to court.
well, yeah, obviously, in many ways, she was a person that finished off Ansett. This is her final victory. That now the name is going to be taken and used by the AI robots. I kind of feel this shouldn't be. I don't want to. Again, maybe this is going to be really good. I doubt it, but it does feel a bit sad that someone's been able to take an iconic Australian logo and brand and just take it and use it for something else. That feels wrong to me.
The logo, when I really remember that, is just I think in one of the.
I don't think he's using the logo. I think
He's got a name. Yeah, he's got a name. Though.
But the logo itself is just when it was the Australian cricket team sponsor. And we blitzed England numerous times at the SCG. So I'll send you YouTube clips.
Yeah, no, don't. I'm not interested. I'm not interested.
What he wants to do, by the way, is create an AI travel concierge that can replace the need to search or plan holidays. He says, quote, one thing I'm hoping to do is if you've booked a holiday for your family, we'll know who you are and your name and where you're going.
That doesn't sound sinister.
So I want to give you an AI written jingle and send it to you so that it can be the soundtrack of your holiday. I don't know why anyone would want that. Why would you want that?
But if you are listening and you want to send a jingle into this show, I won't be here, so I don't care. But that can be the new kind of theme tune for the show. Get Ansett to do it.
I'm going to be honest, Adam. I hate this.
Yeah, no, it's awful.
I don't like this idea. I don't like it.
Rest in peace.
Yeah,
look, you can't dig up a grave.
Here's my view. If you're going to bring Ansett back, if you really want to bring Ansett back as a brand, fly planes with it.
Yeah.
We've spoken about these guys, Renaissance partners, the people who wanted to buy Rex, who say that we want to create a new. Say we want to create a new TAA. We want to bring back TAA as a brand. We want to do this and that with it. And whether or not you think their plan will succeed, the aim for them bringing back TAA is to fly planes
There's a bit of
with
romance
TAA on the side, not make AI jingles about your holiday to the Gold Coast or wherever. It's look, I don't like this.
No.
Yeah, it sounds like it's trying to break into the music industry now.
So that's that story, which I figured we would. Look, I was told that if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
I never told you that.
Someone did. So anyway, our next story is let's have a bit of a congratulations, by the way, to Professor Andrew Kornberg.
Yes.
Professor Andrew Kornberg, who was flying around Australia for the kids. He was flying around Australia for the kids in his own personal plane, and he has completed his journey. And his single-engine Cirrus SR-22 flew 27,000 kilometres, more than 50 hours in the air, to raise money for the Royal Children's Hospital in Melbourne. Apparently, he's already made more than $2 million of his $4.5 million target. Which is really, really impressive. We spoke to him on the podcast before his journey. Andrew, if you're listening, we'd love to have you back on and tell us how it went.
Yeah, and also if you go on that article, I think there's a link at the bottom if you want to find out more and donate, or you can just chuck it into Google. But it is a very worthy cause. He's done a lot of things like showing how these pioneering treatments that he's trying to back can change kids' lives. So I think it's a very worthy thing to do. Okay, welcome back. So what are we talking about next?
It's the story that keeps on giving, Adam, the Qantas hack.
Yes.
This story, so we've had a couple of updates. We've had a story come to us from David Hollingworth, who is with our sister brand Cyber Daily. If you're interested in cybersecurity, you might remember he was on the podcast a couple of weeks back. Check Cyber Daily out. Good news on the cyber world and how to keep yourself protected. But he's spoken to a former FBI director, Paul Abate. Paul. He's spoken to Paul, who has basically said that airlines are a profitable target for hackers, He said it is essential for companies across all industries, particularly those that collect and store personally identifiable information, to provide regular and consistent training and awareness to the workforce on cyber threats, what to look for in terms of potential attack, and methods to avoid falling victim to cyber attacks. He says Scattered Spider, who is believed to have been responsible, the hacking collective, highly consistent with their tactics, including targeting call centers using social engineering, focus on certain sectors such as airlines. And given the volume and the nature of the data that airlines hold, most of which is or a lot of which is personal information, it is an attractive target for hackers who want to sell that data on or use it to commit other further crimes like, identity theft. So airline, as David has always said, and I think he said last time he was on the podcast, it's not a matter of if you're going to get hacked, but when.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we said before, and I'll say again, I feel the kind of kicking that Qantas have got in the mainstream media over this feels incredibly unfair. All businesses nowadays are going to get hacked at some point. What we believe happened with Qantas was there's some element of like well, I don't know if you call it like social conditioning, blagging, basically. They persuaded somebody over the phone to give them information, which then allowed them to do the hack. There's very little you can do against this. If someone's that determined to use that as a route in, that there isn't much more you can do. I kind of feel that the way Qantas have handled it at every stage has actually been quite first class. They've been very quick on the ball with this. They've also sent everybody an email telling every single person who was affected exactly what data of theirs was taken, so they can maybe change any passwords, etc. They've been very on top of this. We also, just to do a link probably to myself talking about this, David did another story earlier this week talking about the kind of correspondence between Qantas and the people claiming to be the hackers. And so this is because Qantas went to I think it was the Supreme Court, or maybe the Federal Court, some court, to basically get an injunction that would stop anybody that got hold of information from publishing it. So basically, if you publish this data, you could go to prison, which is it's a sensible thing. It's a sensible next step that a company should do. But as part of getting this, they showed the correspondence between what we think is that Scattered Spider and Qantas. And it does seem that the way Qantas handled it was very professional. At one point, the people proclaiming to be the hackers gave Qantas like a 72-hour deadline, and they also gave them a bit of what they call like a proof of hack. So they gave them some of the information they have to prove that they had this stuff going. Qantas initially didn't reply for a few emails, which is probably the right course of action. And then after that, I think they use this platform called Tox. I think it's Tox, which is
Tor.
Tor.
I think it's Tor.
Tor, one of these. But basically, they use a kind of secure platform in order to communicate with these people. I would imagine if you just reply to the email, that's a bit of a trap. So at every stage, they've been given good advice and they've tried to do things in the correct manner.
And I think, look, it's we don't. We're not in the business of like going into bat for Qantas or any airline in particular, partially because when we do that, the airlines always collapse. But
that's true, yeah. Rest in peace, Bonza and Rex.
Rest in peace, yeah. I mean, Rex has still got some life left in it, hopefully. But I think there's been a lot of negative press around Qantas, and some of it well deserved. And I think if Qantas was not already so unpopular, there would not be such an urge to just jump for media to just jump in and give it a kicking. Every negative thing that happens to Qantas is kind of an excuse to whack the flying kangaroo around a little bit. And so there is plenty of criticism of Qantas, which is very valid and well deserved. But not every bad thing that happens to Qantas is Qantas's fault.
Yeah, and that is how a newsroom would work. Like the journalists in a national newspaper, you're storytellers. Obviously, you're telling the facts, but you're building a narrative. And the narrative of the last few years has been that Qantas is this horrible, awful company. We've done all these apparently bad things wrong. And so the next obvious step is you jump on this and you give these guys a kicking. If this was Virgin Australia, I don't think they would have got anywhere near the same stick. In fact, I think they would have been hailed as doing a good job. But that's just simply how the narrative moves. And if David Hollingworth, who is arguably Australia's top expert on this, he
is the epitome of a cybersecurity expert.
He is the epitome, yes, of a cybersecurity expert, and he is literally dealing with these hacks every single day, more than anyone in this country is on the phone to these people. If he turned around and said they'd actually handled it pretty well, that's actually quite a good endorsement of how Qantas have handled things. Right, what's next?
An update on a long-running story, 5 years running now. We've had a decision by the full federal court in the invasive searches case against Qatar Airways. Now, in April last year, there was a ruling in the federal court that Qatar Airways could not be held responsible for the invasive search incident. A group of women, including 5 Australian women, were traumatized in October 2020 in Doha when they were, I think, pulled off a plane and subjected to invasive personal searches.
Let's rewind a little bit. My last act as host. Let's rewind a little bit and tell people what happened. So during the middle of COVID, obviously we had Quantis that were effectively shut down in terms of the majority of their international flights. So they had some government paid for repatriation flights, basically. But in terms of commercial flights to get you in and out of Australia, for a long time, Qatar was the only option, or effectively the biggest option. And Qatar did this effectively for kind of branding reasons. They had this whole tag of "we'll get you home, we'll keep flying during the pandemic," and they did this for kind of long-term purposes. But they were the main route in and out of Australia as borders closed, etc., etc. So what happened on this one flight was supposedly, and we don't know for certain, I think effectively like a baby or a fetus was found in Qatar airport. And so what happened is the authorities at the airport decided that they would find out whose child this was and effectively dragged these women off these aircraft and did like an invasive search effectively against their will, which is an absolute horrible, traumatic, terrible thing. And obviously the problem that we had as a country is that Qatar was the only airline that was really flying into and out to Australia. So it was hard to really take action against them as an airline because we kind of needed them. And so this was a very traumatic thing that kind of happened. Obviously, there's been a lot of attempts by the women affected to get some kind of justice for this because at the moment it's a kind of grey area, I think, in terms of you've got the airport and then you've got the airline. They're owned by a company which is kind of owned by the state of Qatar. And so this has kind of gone back and forth between the courts in terms of like who do you sue, under what jurisdiction does it come. So this is the kind of breakthrough now. It looks like they will have a means to take legal action.
Yeah, so what's happened is, last year the judge, Justice Halley, ruled that Qatar could not be held responsible under the Montreal Convention. He said, in no view did the invasive examinations take place on board the aircraft or in the course of embarking or disembarking. He said the exclusivity principle in the Montreal Convention therefore precludes the applicants advancing this claim must be summarily dismissed or struck out. But the full federal court has actually now set aside that judgment, saying basically that it was too early to decide at the stage of summary dismissal whether or not the claims had merit. That basically that there needed to be a trial to work out exactly what happened. Justice Stewart, who wrote the summary, said whether or not the claims come within the scope of Article 17 is a matter of some complexity turning on assessments of fact and degree. There is no sufficiently high degree of certainty that what happened to the appellants, so the 5 women, in the ambulance could not ultimately have been found to have been in the course of any of the operations of embarking or disembarking. It is therefore not an issue apt to be decided at the stage of summary dismissal. So what the judge has basically said is now hold on, we don't know if it was. You know, because in the I think in the Montreal Convention, it has to sort of be when you're on board or embarking or disembarking, and it's to hold the airlines liable. And it's sort of, well, we don't know that that's the case.
Yeah.
This needs to be decided at trial. We also had a decision that Matar, the owner and operator or at least the operator of the airport, the potential liability there could not be set aside for the actions of the Ministry of Interior officials or the person who performed the invasive searches who may or may not have been a nurse. But it cannot be concluded with sufficient confidence that the appellants have or will have no basis to plead that the nurse was an employee or a true agent of Matar. So basically, like, was the nurse being employed by the airport to do this? Did Matar have a duty of care that did or did not extend to what was happening in and around that ambience? ambulance. But
so it's effectively complicated because
it's
like
complicated.
Because
it
it's
needs
like
to be decided
it
at
comes
trial.
down to the nuances of whether they were on the aircraft, off the aircraft, within the vicinity of the airport, whether they just take off and land, like basically like who's legally responsible, because obviously when you're in an airport you're in a kind of legal grey area, like airports are almost outside of the jurisdiction of countries somewhat.
Security.
Yeah, so basically that's, and I'm sure I've bodged the exact sort of a technicalities here, but they need to establish who's responsible in order to give them a legal route to sue, because if this was a normal case it would be a lot more straightforward. So that's what they're trying to nail down. So the judges effectively said, like you said, they're like, hold on a minute here, we can't just dismiss this out of hand. We need to look in depth of this before we stop that opportunity for a lawsuit to happen.
Yeah. Now there was one thing that was upheld, which is that the Qatar Civil Aviation Authority, or QCAA, cannot be sued because it is immune under Australian law as sort of an agent or an entity of a foreign state. So you can't sue someone else's government in Australia. Yeah. Is I believe the law. So so mostly some good news for those women, and it will be interesting to see how that case proceeds at trial.
It will be. Right, have we got time for one more story?
Have we got time for one more story?
That's in buying time. Live journalism, as I always say. Buying time to find a story.
Just another update, by the way, on Darwin Airport. We covered this a few months back, but the general landing charge at Darwin Airport has been increased, and regional carriers and general aviation operators are basically saying this is unreasonable. You have increased it too much. It's gone from $36.39 a tonne up to $77.71 a tonne for the general landing charge as of the 1st of July, which is more than double. So it's gone up by more than. That's
a negative note to end my last show on, isn't it?
Well, we don't we haven't had a lot of feel good stories over the past week, Adam. I'm sorry. Right. But yeah, it's one to watch because the RAAA has basically said this is threatening the viability of essential aviation services into and out of Darwin, and it needs to be reviewed. And so we should probably...
We're ending on landing charges.
We're ending on
really?
Landing
probably
charges.
Not.
Oh, yeah?
No, feel-good story. Favourite feel-good story you've covered?
Oh, I don't know. I'm a miserable little sod. I don't know. Feel-good story I've covered. I don't know. I can't. I just
can't think I should have prepared.
No, I can't. I remember actually watching the last flight of a Qantas 747.
Okay.
And they had like a media event. It was kind of like mid-COVID, in between lockdowns, and it was in the hangar. And as it left the hangar, they did the whole propaganda. They did the whole "I still call Australia home" and all this stuff. Alan Joyce did a speech, and I remember it as it kind of taxied out the hangar, watching a lot of grown men just crying, just sobbing.
We're not going to cry.
No, I didn't say that. But I do remember thinking, this is extraordinary, isn't it? this is extraordinary. They were all in tears.
Well, now you can sing the song every time you land. I still call Australia home.
No, but yeah, it's as John Sharp called it. That is propaganda, a most appalling propaganda. So I do remember that. That was something I take away from me.
Yeah. Well, end of an era at Quantis, and now end of an era here at Australian Aviation.
It is an end of an era. Again, one more time, thank you so much, everybody, and all you've done for me. You've changed my life. It does mean the world. I will say goodbye to my co-host, Jake.
Goodbye, Adam.
Ben?
Hey, it's not goodbye. It's I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
We'll be back same time next week, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know with who.
With who? Yeah. I'll be watching. Who knows?
I at least will be back.
He will be back.
I will be back next week. So if you're looking, if you like seeing more of me, I guess you will.
Could you reckon you could just do it on your own, like you interviewing yourself, or just like a monologue?
I'll listen to that.
I could again, funny accents I could do potentially.
Sea shanty or two.
Yeah, maybe. This is my new Italian co-host or whatever.
Go on, do it.
Yeah, the planes they come out of the sky.
The planes they come out of the sky.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
It's true. They do though. They do come out of the sky.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's all for us this week. Join us next week where Jake will be interviewed. Well, not us.
Join me next week.
Join Jake next week, and the new host, Super Mario.
Mamma mia!
Yeah. But for now, from all of us, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Peace.